Here's what I know about you folks. You have voices every day that tell you things like this. I am not enough. They tell you I'm not attractive enough, I'm not strong enough, not talented enough, or fit enough. And these voices, they lead you to believe that there are some people out there who have it all together. And then there are, the rest of us who sort of bumble through life. They're voices that leave us feeling ashamed of who we are. And honestly, one of those voices is often the voice of Christianity. Have you noticed this? Christians have this tendency to imply that there are real Christians, and then there are the rest of us. The rest of us who don't follow the rules enough, who don't give enough, pray enough, study enough, aren't holy enough, pure enough, aren't Christian enough. Well, friends, we're walking through the book of the Bible called Romans. And here's the thing about Romans. Romans paints a very different picture. Romans suggests that in Christ you are enough. There isn't one of us who needs to feel ashamed. And today, I can't wait to tell you all about it. My wife Katie and I were fortunate enough to sneak away for a little vacation in California. And there we stayed with some friends in a VRBO, a rental. In the evening, we spent our time sitting by the pool, and as friends do, we talked and we talked and we talked late into the night, and we laughed and laughed. Hard to believe, of course, with good friends. And it got a little loud, and that's when our friend said, "Shh, you're going to get us arrested." I said, "Ha, arrested? You're real funny." She said, "No, seriously. Here in Palm Springs, there's a law that if your neighbor thinks you're too loud, the police can come to your rental, give you a citation, and you have, get this, 30 minutes to vacate the property. No warnings, no refund. You're kicked out." I said, "No way, that's impossible." And then I said this, that would never fly back home in Alexandria. Well, here's what I think. This is exactly what Paul is wrestling with in chapter 7. He's worked tirelessly to introduce people to God, people who were never thought to be part of God's family. They were called Gentiles. As non-Jews, they were people who had always been made to feel as though they were outsiders to the faith because they didn't follow the Jewish rules, the laws, and the traditions. Well, in Romans chapter 7, Paul is making the argument that although religious rules were good and meant to protect the Jewish people who had for so long been the sole insiders to God's plan, they no longer made sense in this new context. And I think that's how laws and rules can be. When you're on the inside, for example, a resident of Palm Springs, the laws and the expectations make sense. It's a retirement community, a vacation community, and it makes sense that they can arrest you and kick you out of town if you're loud in your backyard late at night. In your hometown, though, that rule sounds, weird. In fact, it feels oppressive. That's how religious rules can come across to outsiders, oppressive, exclusive, and just strange. Well, Paul uses an odd analogy to get this point across in chapter 7. He says, if you are married and your partner dies, you can no longer commit adultery against them because they are, dead and no longer your spouse. In fact, you are now free to enjoy the company of someone else. You see, for Paul, because Christ died for all of us, we are free from this idea that all God cares about is how well we follow the rules. Instead, using Paul's analogy, we are now joined with a new partner, the resurrected Jesus, with whom there is no need for all the rules, all the laws, all the traditions. In fact, in light of the resurrected Jesus, all the rules and laws no longer make sense as markers for who is in and who is out. Paul even makes a humorous confession in chapter 7. As a faithful Jew, Paul admits he doesn't even follow the rules all that well. He says, as hard as I try to live that picture-perfect life, I do not do what I want to do, but do the very thing I don't. You see, for Paul, the death and resurrection of Jesus ushered in a whole new day, a new context. The rules no longer discern who is in and who is out, only Jesus. And for Jesus, all are in, all are enough, and you never need to feel ashamed, ever. A couple questions for you. What's a rule or a law that fits in one context that would feel strange in another context? And how about this question? What church rules have been a part of your religious life? How do they seem out of place in light of God's grace? Thanks for tuning in today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.